What is happening in Hungary is a massive inhumanity. The strongest symbol of this is the recent practice of the Hungarian government to willingly starve detained migrants in the transit zones.
Sometimes the people are not brave enough to try if we are living in a dictatorship or not.
Orban is a very super ambitious personality. I think he outsmarts and outperforms in terms of ambition probably everyone else, every other European politician.
According to Viktor Orban, this European election is all about stopping migration to Europe. This message must be popular with residents of this village of Palmajor in the south of Hungary, where 98% of residents voted for him. The catch is that there are no migrants in sight. And the real reason for his popularity, its residents say, is this. The unemployment in this otherwise poor village is zero. All these farmers are part of Orban's Start Work program. These farming jobs give them an income of about 150 euros a month from the government. And it helps them transition to better jobs, like working in nearby factories. Imre Bogdan's salary is paid by the government too. As the village elder, he drives children to a nursery in a nearby village and the elderly to their doctor's appointments. He says Viktor Orban's program has transformed their life. As to migration, he says he has never seen an asylum seeker around here. But Orban's anti-migration message resonates with him deeply too. Because it's the threat of them coming that terrifies him. If you see the news, it's enough to see what is happening in Germany. They don't dare to go to the streets because there's a lot of violence and crime. The people are frightened of what they see, that the things that you see on television would happen here. Orban's government has consolidated the control of the media. Nearly 500 media outlets pump out his anti-immigration message.
In the parallel universe Orban created, a few million people really believe that this is a real threat and only Orban who can protect them.
On the way to Budapest, posters advertising Orban's new family policies line the streets. Companies that manage billboards are tightly controlled too. And this kind of control is what has secured Orban's party its supermajority in the parliament.
After having a two-thirds majority, they will never let power go away. This is how they completely changed the constitutional system, all institutions, the electoral system. They created a whole media empire, and everybody who is not with them, they are against them.
This opposition paper is trying to pierce the pro-Orban narrative with investigations into the business connections of his political circle. Funded only through crowdfunding, Hungarian Voice has become the country's second biggest weekly. No advertisers will come to them, and readers are fearful of taking out subscriptions.
I think we are not living yet in a dictatorship, but sometimes the people are not brave enough to try if we are living in a dictatorship or not. So that's the reason why we are closer and closer to the dictatorship.
But ironically, it was Orban himself who launched his career by fighting against the lack of freedoms under the Soviet regime. The communists took away our future, he proclaimed at this rally in 1989, just before the Iron Curtain fell. But his liberal leanings did not last long. After his party's political defeat in 1994, Orban took the party sharply to the right. Zsuzsanna Zeleny was Orban's close ally, but left the party after this turn. The shift to the right was an opportunistic move, a way to get to power, she says.
Orban is a very super ambitious personality. I think he outsmarts and outperforms in terms of ambition probably everyone else, every other European politician.
And this razor-wire topped fence on Hungary's southern border is the symbol of his ambition. Orban has just taken Italy's Matteo Salvini, the leader of its far-right League party, for a pre-election tour. The two ideological allies are courting their voters and discussing possible alliances. But human rights organizations say this is the site of massive human rights violations. These days, one person a day is allowed into each of the two transit zones at the border, and all are kept in detention.
What is happening in Hungary is a massive inhumanity. The strongest symbol of this is the recent practice of the Hungarian government to willingly starve detained migrants in the transit zones. So those whose appeal was rejected by a court and why they are still detained in the transit zones, they are not entitled to get food unless they are children or pregnant women.
This treatment of migrants is a part of the narrative of the battle for Europe's Christian future, with Orban in the lead.
Hungary is very small for Orban. He has long-term goals and he wants to be a real big guy on the European level, but not in the European Union as we know it at the moment. He really wants to change it, the whole system, and he wants to be a big guy in the future's Europe.
And his voters at this town hall meeting are propelling his European ambition. It's not enough to just have the maximum mandates. It's important to have all EU institutions led by anti-migrant politicians, says this MEP candidate. I want my children not to have to go to Muslim temples, that they have a Catholic way of life. We don't want to be a nation that bows down. We need to protect the big Europe, as Hungary has always done.
I think one day he will be one of the leaders of Europe. Yes, because people have enough.
And this anti-migration narrative serves to distract the attention from issues back home. Homeless people used to be a common sight in Budapest, until Orban changed the constitution to ban them from sleeping on streets. Analysts say 40% of the population live below the poverty line. This shelter is run by Reverend Gabor Ivani, the priest who baptized Orban's two children. Up to 300 homeless people come here every night, and he struggles to see Christian values in Orban's policies.
Politikai kereszténységnek az a válfaja.
If you take political Christianity that pushed for power and burned those who thought differently in bonfires, if that's the Christianity you're talking about, then he might be Christian, but it has nothing to do with Christ. And there are other signs of discontent. Momentum is Hungary's new Liberal Party. They are celebrating 15 years of Hungary's EU membership.
We think Orban Viktor wants to go out from Europe and we want to stay here. We are European people.
Momentum's young European candidate feels inspired by the signs of progressive change in the region, exemplified by the likes of progressive Slovakia and the Spring Party in Poland.
We founded this party a bit less than 2 years ago. We were like 9 friends in a basement and we had nothing. And then over the course of only 2 years we put together a movement that will send representation to the European Parliament. So I feel that we are growing. There is dynamics in this movement and we have to change society because we can't give up hope.
But it's a long road ahead for them. The current polls show that their realistic prospect is sending just one MEP to Brussels, while Viktor Orban's mission is to change Europe itself.